2018 MEAC Volleyball Championship.
22-year-old MaKayla Bryant was killed at the Providence Point Apartments complex in January of 22. Police say a botched drug deal among Bryant, her girlfriend, and Ogilvy led to the deadly shooting.
She was 22 years old, a graduate student, a cheerleader captain, a sorority sister, a mentor to kids who weren't even hers. And on a Wednesday afternoon in January 2022, she got into a car and never came home. What happened next would shake an entire university, fracture a friendship, and expose a set of choices that nobody wants to talk about. Because some of those choices were made by people who loved her. This is the story of MaKayla Bryant. Before we fully go further into this story, welcome to Homicide Case Files, where real stories meet real consequences with no fluff. Just the truth. Hit subscribe if you find meanings in these stories. Tallahassee, Florida, the state capital, serves as the backdrop of this story. On the surface, it reads like a classic college town. Tree-lined streets, football games on Saturdays, young people everywhere you look. But beneath all of that, Tallahassee consistently ranks as one of the most violent cities in Florida. In 2022, the year MaKayla died, the city recorded some of its highest rates of gun-related violence in recent memory. And on January 26, 2022, those two realities collided in a parking lot off Stuckey Avenue. Before we get into what happened that day, you need to understand who MaKayla Bryant actually was. Because this story is not just about a crime. It is about a person, a real one. MaKayla, who went by MK to everyone who knew her, was born in Chicago in August 1999. She enrolled at Florida A&M University in 2017. And from the very beginning, she was not someone who blended into the background. She cheered for the FAMU Rattlers all 4 years. Became cheer captain in 2019, graduated magna cum laude in the fall of 2020 with a degree in criminal justice. And by 2022, she was deep into her master's program in community psychology.
Go, fight, win. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. I'm no stranger to school spirit. You see me on the sidelines cheering. Orange and green in my veins, that's how I'm living. I'm bigger than I ever dreamed.
This was a woman who was literally building her life around helping people. She was an active member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She volunteered at schools. She interned in classrooms and helped with behavior management at the university. She mentored kids who weren't even her responsibility. And she did it all with a smile that, by every account, was absolutely impossible to ignore.
I've already been working on the field. So today, I'm putting down my pom-poms and picking up my sword because I am ready to fight and win whatever the battle will be.
Her godfather, Joe Starnes, told reporters she had served her family proud. Her sorority sisters said she had a rare gift. She could walk into any room and make every single person in it feel like they mattered.
To know MK, even for a day, an hour, a minute, was to have love for a lifetime. She was just a beacon of joy, of light, of happiness.
Her friends called her the life of the party, and not in a reckless way. In the way that means wherever she showed up, the energy shifted for the better. She was 22 years old, a grad student, a leader, and she was gone by 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. On the afternoon of January 26th, 2022, MaKayla left campus with her close friend and fellow FAMU student, Precious Charlton. They drove to the Providence Point Apartments on Stuckey Avenue in Tallahassee. What they were going there to do was sell drugs. Now, before you form an opinion, I need you to hold on, because this is the part of the story that gets complicated. That makes it real. MaKayla was not some career criminal with a record. She was a young woman who, on this specific afternoon, made a decision. A bad one. A decision that would cost her everything. They believed it was a routine transaction. Just another meeting. They had no reason to think it would go any differently than before. They were wrong. A 26-year-old man named Khalil Ogilvy was waiting at those apartments. He approached the passenger side of the car where MaKayla was sitting, but he had not come to buy anything. He pulled out a handgun. He was there to rob them. What happened next took maybe 10 seconds. MaKayla did not freeze. She fought back. She grabbed for the weapon, grappling with Ogilvy right there in the parking lot. In the struggle, the gun went off. MaKayla was shot in the chest. Precious, behind the wheel, did the only thing she could think to do. She drove. She floored it straight to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, with MaKayla bleeding in the passenger seat beside her. Doctors rushed MaKayla into the operating room. She didn't make it out. MaKayla Bryant was pronounced dead that evening.
Court papers say Charlton called 911 and drove straight to the hospital when she realized Bryant had been shot. Savannah Kelly has been in court all afternoon for us as testimony kicked off. Savannah.
Yeah, Jacob, Julie, testimony just wrapped up for the day. We heard from about half a dozen witnesses, including Precious Carlton, MaKayla Bryant's girlfriend. Now, we mentioned a moment ago that 911 call that Charlton made on the way to the hospital. The state played a recording of that call in court today. As she listened to it, Charlton broke down into tears. Now, one key fact that the defense and the prosecution dispute is when Ogilvy's gun fired. The defense says it happened accidentally when Ogilvy and Bryant were fighting over control of Bryant's gun. They say Ogilvy's hands were reaching through the car window when Charlton drove away, causing the gun to fire. In her testimony today, Charlton disputed that. She said she heard the gun fire before she started driving. She says after Bryant and Ogilvy started fighting, she froze, but hearing that gunshot snapped her out of it.
And they say it's fight, flight, or freeze. I was frozen, like I'm just stuck, like. And I don't know if y'all ever heard no gunshot, but 3 feet away from you is close enough to pull anybody out of any type of thought, because it's just out the blue. I'm like, dang, I gotta do something right now.
The state called several other witnesses today, including a police officer who gave Bryant first aid and a witness who said he saw part of the drug deal happen through his apartment window.
Before we get to what happened in that courtroom, I want to stop right here for a second. Think about someone you love. A sister, a best friend, a cousin, someone smart, who's someone full of life, someone who has their whole future ahead of them. Now, think about how fast one afternoon can erase all of it. MaKayla's family did not know that morning that it was the last day. Nobody warned them. Nobody ever does. If stories like this hit different for you, if you believe that knowing could one day protect you or someone you care about, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications, because we tell these stories here so they don't disappear. Now, back to Khalil Ogilvy and what happened when this finally made it in front of a jury. Tallahassee police launched a homicide investigation immediately after MaKayla was brought to that hospital. Officers sealed off the Providence Point parking lot, canvassed for witnesses, pulled surveillance footage. For 3 days, nothing was released publicly. Then, on January 29th, 3 days after the shooting, police arrested Precious Charlton, the same woman who had driven MaKayla to the hospital, the same woman who had been in that car. She was charged with third-degree murder and possession of narcotics with intent to sell. Now, I know what you're thinking, and honestly, I thought the same thing. Precious didn't pull any trigger. But investigators argued that the drug sale, the entire reason they were at those apartments in the first place, made Charlton legally responsible for what unfolded. Under Florida law, that argument had teeth. 2 days later, on January 31st, Khalil Ogilvy was arrested and charged with murder. The man who showed up to that parking lot with a loaded gun and a plan to rob 2 young women was finally in handcuffs.
Today, Khalil Ogilvie was sentenced to 20 years in the death of a FAMU student and cheerleader, MaKayla Bryant. Bryant was shot and killed in 2022 in what officers called a botched drug deal. Ogilvie was found guilty of manslaughter in February of this year. A jury convicted him of the lesser charge instead of the first-degree murder charge prosecutors pushed for. Ogilvie took the stand in the trial, claiming the gun went off by accident as he wrestled with Bryant over the gun.
By April 2022, a grand jury had reviewed the evidence and upgraded the charge to first-degree murder. Assistant State Attorney Georgia Kappelman said publicly that MaKayla was a beautiful grad student who was, quote, very senselessly dead. Those words hit the news cycle like a stone. As for Precious Charlton, the murder charge against her was eventually dropped later in 2022. The state determined she had not fired the weapon and that the evidence didn't support a murder conviction. She pleaded guilty to the drug-related charges and received probation. But here's where it gets really interesting, because 2 years after MaKayla's death, this case finally made it to a courtroom. And what that jury decided, almost nobody saw coming. The case moved through the courts at a crawl. 2 full years passed before Khalil Ogilvie ever sat in a courtroom to face a jury. In late January 2024, the trial finally began in Leon County, Florida. Prosecutors laid out their case clearly. Ogilvie had arrived at those apartments to rob MaKayla and Precious. He was the one who produced a firearm. He was the aggressor. And because of his actions, a 22-year-old woman who had her whole life ahead of her was dead. The defense had a different version. They claimed MaKayla also had a weapon. They argued the situation was chaotic, fast-moving, and that Ogilvie's gun had discharged accidentally as Charlton drove away. They painted a picture of confusion rather than intent. Both sides called witnesses. Both sides made arguments, and then the jury went away to decide. On February 1st, 2024, the verdict came back. Not guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of manslaughter. The jury believed Ogilvie's actions caused MaKayla's death, but they didn't believe it was premeditated. Manslaughter with a weapon in Florida carries a maximum sentence of 30 years. On April 15th, 2024, Khalil Ogilvie was sentenced to 20 years in prison. 20 years. For a life that had barely had the chance to begin. MaKayla's family and friends who sat in that courtroom said there were no words, that no sentence could ever equal the loss. But it was something. It was official. It was a record of what happened. Now one of her friends put it plainly, Ogilvie could one day walk out of that prison and into a future MaKayla never will. But here is what Khalil Ogilvie will never be able to take away. MaKayla Bryant left a mark on this world that outlasted her life. Her Delta Sigma Theta chapter at FAMU established a scholarship in her honor called the Make It Known Why You Love FAMU Award. Every year, it goes to a student in need. Every year, it carries her name forward. But every time the FAMU cheer squad takes the field, every time a scholarship recipient opens that letter, every time one of her sorority sisters tells a new member about the woman who made them feel like they belonged. That's still MaKayla. She was taken too soon, way too soon. But the love she put into this world, that doesn't just disappear.
The Florida A&M community came together to remember the life of graduate student MaKayla Bryant today. The candlelight vigil brought out friends and family of the 22-year-old. FAMU says Bryant was the victim of a shooting at Providence Point Apartments last Wednesday. She graduated in fall of 2020 before returning to FAMU for her graduate degree. She was also the captain of the cheerleading squad. Her sorority sister says Bryant was loved by many.
To know MK, even for a day, an hour, a minute, was to have love for a lifetime. She was just a beacon of joy, of light, of happiness, a ray of sunshine, a breath of fresh air. Anybody who met her was like someone who liked her. She loved everyone, and it's just everyone in this room was from all different types of walk of life, and that everyone loved her. If you didn't like her, something was wrong with you.
To the Bryant family, her sorority sisters, her friends, and everyone at FAMU who loved MaKayla, this channel holds her story with care. She deserved more years, more moments, more chances to pour into a world that clearly needed her. We are so deeply sorry for your loss. And to you, watching right now, thank you for staying until the end. It means more than you know. I will see you in our next true crime story.